I always prayed for wisdom. That was the thing I always wanted to have. It seemed like being wise was a good investment, right? If you can be wise, you can avoid a lot of mistakes. So I knew that when I was jumping into real estate, I didn't have any money. I just started a job. I was 2 years out of being homeless. It was just it wasn't there. So I should say a few more years out of homeless. But I'm just whatever. And I'm about to use my dad's money, right? His retirement money. He got me started. He's my partner. He'll always be my partner. We're family. And I didn't want to make a mistake and lose his retirement. I mean, I saw what he did to make that money and where he came from.
Welcome to the Saucetown Investor Podcast.
What is up, everybody? This is Matt Cox. We are back with another episode of the Saucetown Investor Podcast. We've got another awesome interview today. Our guest today is a real estate investor, property manager, realtor, and contractor based in Green Bay, Wisconsin. You can see if you're on video, I'm wearing my Packer beanie in honor of that today. He's the founder of Team First Rentals, a long-term property management company, as well as Packerland Stays, which offers short-term rentals in Northeast Wisconsin, and Team First Services, which is a full-service general contractor. He started his investment journey in 2017 by diving into real estate education through Bigger Pockets, like I did, like many of our listeners, I think, did. And by 2019, he had purchased his first investment property, a rough duplex he rehabbed nights and weekends with his father and business partner. I'm excited to hear the story behind that one. That first project sparked his passion for property management. Today, Zach's team manages over 50 units, including a mix of short and long-term rentals, with their largest property being a 7-unit mixed-use building. Zach credits his success to vertical integration, bringing construction, management, and investing under one roof. He's built strong in-house teams that allow him to take on value-add projects and consistently find solid returns. I am joined, my man, Zach Waldrop. How are we doing?
Good. How are you, my man?
I am good. Excited to have you here. You're our first non-Oregon guest, so we're breaking through that barrier today. So great to have you here, my man.
Awesome, man. I'm glad to be here. I'm loving the hat. Got to rep the team, and this is going to be my first actual podcast. So I'm really looking forward to sharing what we got going on here in Green Bay.
Good stuff. So, to kind of hop in, tell us a bit about, before we get into real estate specific, tell us about your upbringing, and your background, where you grew up, where you went to school, and then ultimately you can talk a little bit about how you ended up in real estate.
Right on. So I was born in San Diego, California. My dad was in the Navy. He was an INC tech, so he worked on nuclear reactors. He met my mom in Idaho, so that's where her family's from. He's from Talladega, Alabama. So my family is not from Green Bay at all. We moved to Green Bay when I was 4 years old. So right before I started elementary school, I grew up here in Green Bay. I've been here ever since. So my family's here. My wife's family's been here for generations. This is definitely home for us. Education-wise, obviously high school. I've been to 4 different colleges, actually. Didn't graduate from a single one. So I am the C grade student that runs a bunch of companies now. So as you said, I have 4 companies. Before I got into real estate, my last job I worked at, I started out shipping and working on computers and worked my way up to the president of a promo products company. So I had like 25 employees under me. And I worked through COVID. So 2019, 2020, when everything was crazy, everyone got laid off. And then 2021, my daughter was about to be born, and that's when I decided to retire from W-2, and I went full-time on my own into real estate. And so I'll back up now, where you had said in 2017, I became the president. I was working for that company. I had a lot of responsibility, and I knew that there was other ways to make money, right? Real estate being kind of the number one. It's made 3/4 of all the millionaires in our country, right? So I started at Bigger Pockets. Then my dad and I were talking. We had talked about investing since the '08 crash. But, was growing up in different situations. So finally, we decided to jump. We bought a duplex. This was a really cool duplex. Actually, I got lucky. That one was on the MLS listed as a single family home, so it got passed over by everyone.
Those are great deals.
Yeah, it was amazing. So we went in the house, and it felt like a duplex. And you walked up the back staircase. It was a mirrored unit, so upper lower. It was built in the 30s, and they had removed the kitchen when you walked in upstairs, and the only thing left was the vent hood on the wall. And you're like, this was a kitchen. And then we found out the plumbing was still in the walls, so it was perfect. Anyways, so I don't want to get too far down that segue yet, but during that process, I learned that I love property management, and I also learned to be a property manager, you have to be a real estate broker in Wisconsin. So that's what got me onto the real estate track. You have to get 2 years experience in a bunch of different things for being a broker. So I guess that's where my next experience has come in. I've spent the last few years building up enough transactions, and I should have my broker's license within the next few weeks. Actually, I'm just waiting on a final sign off from my old broker. So that's my experience. That's kind of what got me going into real estate and where I came from.
Tell us a little more. I didn't. You and I know each other pretty well now. We've been doing business almost 3 years. I usually see you when I'm out in Green Bay. I didn't know this story about college. We hear a lot about, so it's a mix. Some entrepreneurs will be, they'll go to college for 4 years or even grad school, and then some you hear about are much like you. Like college just isn't. You went to 4 different schools. College just isn't for them, and that's part of what makes you into an entrepreneur, because you're like, I don't want to work for anybody, or maybe I don't even want to listen to the professor or whatever it is. But tell us a little bit. I don't even know what were the 4 schools you went to, and what did you kind of learn through that process as you were bouncing school to school, and then ultimately decided to kind of nix it?
Yeah, so that's a really funny story. The first one I went to was UW Manitowoc. It was a 2-year feeder school for one of our 4-year colleges in the UW system. So I did a full year there, and that was fine. I had a bunch of credits that were going to transfer. And then, let's see, after that, I went to River Falls. So I took a little break. I moved to Colorado. I lived in Breckenridge for a little while. I got homesick, came home, and started college again at River Falls. My wife now went to school there. So I went to school. Things were going really well. I was in computer science, and I got a job. I was working as an intern for our local utility company. So they had about 1,800 employees, and a job opening happened in my department. And so my boss at the time told me to apply. I was in school in River Falls. I would have had to transfer to UWGB. Long story short, I wasn't able to complete the transfer in time. And then because HR corporate, they told me I wasn't eligible for that opening and fired me. So that was pretty rough. And then after that, I worked in the flexographic printing industry. I did some conversions on printing presses, so big equipment like napkin manufacturers. I mean, paper is a main source of income in our area. And then I decided to go back to UWGB. And at UWGB, that was really the struggle. The struggle for me then was, I did the corporate thing, it didn't work out, and I worked really hard for corporate, and it didn't work out. And so going back to school and learning a bunch of stuff that was just, I love history, I love education, I love learning more about people, but when you're getting taught things that don't seem to matter, I didn't really see the value. So then then I was actually homeless for a couple months, through a whole bunch of situations. And so I got that job I told you about as the president. I started there, and I started at NWTC, which is a tech college in our town. And the company I worked for allowed me to really grow any way I wanted. And so I found a place that rather than have to work on education to try and get in, I could work on my merits, right? So I spent 8 years there and worked my way to the top. I love those guys. They gave me such an opportunity to grow and to be a new person and everything. So it was actually really hard to leave there. But I knew that the merit thing and working for yourself was for me the true way to personal happiness and success. And that is why I was like, hey, I can't slave for these other people anymore. If I'm going to work this hard for somebody, it needs to be for my family and for myself. I don't want to sacrifice the time that I'm sacrificing and not get the actual reward, you know? And so we had our daughter, and I had the opportunity to take a jump. My wife supported me. She backed me up. She had a good job. We saved up a decent amount of money, and I jumped, and we went 6 months without a paycheck. So yeah.
That's what they don't tell you. I'm like you, Zach. I'm an entrepreneur too. I can't imagine going back to a W-2, but it is not all rainbows and unicorns. There's a lot of stuff on social media that just glorifies entrepreneurship, and some of it for very good reason. I love it. But I would also say most people probably should not be entrepreneurs. There's a lot of stress, there's a lot of risk, and it takes a certain personality type for sure. Going into, so you talked about 2017, you start listening to Bigger Pockets, and then you buy your first deal in 2019. Obviously, you're a guy, you're a doer, right? You started 4 companies, you learn something, and you do it, and that's something we talk a lot about on this podcast. Is listening to podcasts like this one. It's great. Reading books is great. Consuming content, going to conferences, meetups, all that stuff is great, but none of it matters unless you do the actual thing, which is buying deals or starting the business or whatever. So from that time in 2017, as you're first starting to learn real estate, you're listening to Bigger Pockets, you got about 2 years before you buy the first deal. Was that a case of you finally felt comfortable doing it in 2019, or were you making offers and looking for deals and stuff during that whole 2 years, and then you just finally found one that worked out for you? Take us through that kind of 2-year period.
Yeah, so I'll back up a little bit on my life. I grew up in a religious house, and I'm not very religious now. I guess I'm spiritual if you want to get into that, but I always prayed for wisdom. That was the thing I always wanted to have. It seemed like being wise was a good investment, right? If you can be wise, you can avoid a lot of mistakes. So I knew that when I was jumping into real estate, I didn't have any money. I just started a job. I was 2 years out of being homeless. It wasn't there. So I should say a few more years out of homeless, but I'm just whatever. And I'm about to use my dad's money, right? His retirement money. He got me started. He's my partner. He'll always be my partner. We're family. And I didn't want to make a mistake and lose his retirement. I mean, I saw what he did to make that money and where he came from. So I'm not afraid. There was a little bit of analysis paralysis at the very beginning, but I really just wanted to learn from as many mistakes as I could. So, Brandon Turner had some good books. Mike Butler, Landlording on Autopilot, right? There's a lot of different content like that. And if you have your plan and then start trying to consume content geared towards your plan and how do people fail at your plan, then ideally you at least don't make those mistakes. I forgot who said it. If I saw further, it's because I stood on the shoulders of giants, right? I think that was Newton or whatever. So what I really wanted to make sure was just that I didn't make a major mistake. And then my dad and I went through quite a number of deals, but he really let me do the analysis. He didn't get into learning all of the why you do what. He's like, hey, I'm going to let you do this. So when I finally felt comfortable, I went back to the guy who I had purchased my actual house with, and he led me to another agent because of the situation. She was a new agent, and she helped me kind of get going. I helped her get going as a new agent. We looked at maybe 10 houses, and then we found that one duplex, and it actually worked out really well. So they had it listed for $100,000, and I went in at $72,000 because the toilet upstairs had rotted off, like the flooring you could see through to the ceiling below. I mean, there was just an astronomical list of things to do. And because Amanda, my agent at the time, knew the agent who had listed it, I went in with the repair bills and everything, and she helped me lock it up. And then it was go time.
So you went in there. It was listed for 100. You end up getting it for 72. And
Yes, sir.
when you brought your offer in, you brought supporting bids and stuff
Absolutely.
to be like, here's why. This is an important lesson for people when you're making offers. If you can justify your offer, like that's a great way to go about it. Here's why. I know you want 100 grand. Here's why I have to offer you 72. So what did the bid look like? What was all you told us a little bit about the work, but talk more about that.
So I'm a win-win or no deal guy, right?
Yeah.
I'm big on relationships. I don't think taking advantage of people is the right thing. I'm not going to say anything about other parts of how you can get into real estate. That's for your own decision, but there's a ton of good deals on the MLS. So as you mentioned, I think the house ARV at the time was like a 130, maybe a 140. So, the upper kitchen's gone completely. It needs all flooring, all paint. It had decent siding and windows and a roof. That's what it had going for it. It needed like $7,000 in basement remediation. It had a number of issues. So it was pretty easy to say, hey, the sump pump, as you can see, is back pushed. The sump pump well had pushed out of the floor. There was just issues like that. So I just went through all of them, said, hey, this is what we got to do. This is what some of the repairs are going to be. And you don't have to know exactly, but you also shouldn't lie to them, right? Mm-hmm. So my dad and I were going to do the work. So I came in with, I think, like 20,000 in materials and just said, hey guys, like, I'm not trying to take advantage of you, but this is what it's going to be to get it back to where it is. And I have extra experience because I kind of grew up poor, so we had to fix everything. So every house we added on to, fixed, remodeled, any issue. So I had a pretty good idea. And with my spirit, I would just figure it out, right? So I knew that if they would take 72, that we could overcome any issue at that point. But that's what I did, absolutely. I didn't feel comfortable saying anything less, but I also didn't feel comfortable saying anything more. And I think a lot of people make this mistake, and maybe even especially as a new investor, emotion purchases. If you're emotional about the purchase, you're probably going to make a mistake. I think you even talked about it in your Airbnb podcast, Buying the Shiny Thing, right? So if you are at all emotional, you got to walk away because you're going to continue to make decisions that aren't sound. But if you can just look at it as a business, this is numbers, this is what you got, then the numbers tell you your story, right? So
yeah, that's something I'm that I'm still learning. I've gotten better at it. My agents in Oregon have helped me a lot with it. About like there are so many deals out there. Don't get married to one deal and get emotional and get all excited about it, and just have your numbers, know what you can offer, and make that offer, and they can accept it or reject it and be okay with that. Don't chase the deal because you're excited about it. Making emotional decisions in business or life is a quick way to get yourself in trouble. That's really good. So I just want to get through because this is a really cool deal. So I want to dive a little deeper on it. So you buy it for 72, you underwrite your materials at 20. You're not really, you're doing the work yourself. So you don't have to worry
the labor
about labor cost. The labor is you. So your entry cost, there's probably a few closing costs there, but 92 will say, $5,000 in closing costs, probably just under 100 grand for the project. How did you end up did you go into hard money, or how did you fund it?
I've never touched hard money. Not that I have any issue with hard money, but when my wife and I got married and we went to buy our house, I found out my credit score was a 542. So I spent a lot of time learning how to fix my credit, and it's like a 790 now, right? It's actually better than my dad's, which is really funny. When we did our last cash out refi, we used my credit and not his. So I felt pretty good about that one. Not that his credit's bad either, obviously. Just
right.
Anyway, so because my dad is my partner and he had a sizable 401k and whatever, we went to our local bank. And I would recommend that you get a local bank and you get a relationship with your local bank. And I have another deal in the works now with the same bank. We can talk about that one in a little bit. It's really cool.
Is that Range Bank?
Nope. So Range Bank is another
Okay.
local bank. I love Ryan.
Yeah.
I'm at Bank First National, and
Okay.
I'm there because my wife has been there since like 1994 or whatever, when she got her first bank account. So we went to the bank and they financed 80% of it. And so I needed, I don't know, 16, 20,000 or whatever. And so the way we did it is, because my dad was my partner, we started a new LLC. We took out a loan from him. That's what started our fund money. And then the bank financed most of the purchase. So like 78,000 or whatever. I forgot the exact number that they financed.
So they did 80% of the
I
purchase
think they did
price
like
and
58,000, yeah, or whatever.
70% of your purchase price. So then you got to come up with another 15
Yeah,
plus
so I had
20 for the
15
materials.
plus the 20, and really I ended up spending like 35 all in.
Okay.
So we spent about 50,000 of my dad's money, and then we did a refi as soon as the house was finished. And the refi, I think it appraised at right around 140 where I thought it was going to come out. So we got all of our investment money back. And then the market got wild. And I didn't really like that neighborhood. I grew up over there. It's a pretty rough part of town. So I thought if I could get 150 for it, I'd unload it. And I got 176,000. So we unloaded that in 2023. But that was that whole deal. So bank finance, we used some of my dad's money. We got all of his money out and some, and we had that house we made 30,000 on. And that allowed me to finish selling. That one actually allowed me to finish my second deal, which was another pretty good one.
Let's talk about it. What was the next? So you executed a BRRRR deal, right? For our listeners, BRRRR, buy,
rehab.
I'll get the order wrong. Buy, rehab, rent out, refinance, repeat. So you did the refinance, and then you went the next step 3 or 4 years later, and you actually sold it and got all of your equity out of it, and then you poured it into a new deal.
So we beat 2 years. So I had a long-term capital gain on it, which was good. So what happened was we got my dad's money back, and a friend of ours was selling a 2-1. It should have been a 3-1. I made it back into a 3-1 on the west side of town in a neighborhood that used to have a train yard behind it, but Canadian National ripped it all out. So it's just a big vacant lot. And so people remember it for the train yard. It was very disruptive and noisy, and you live next to an industrial area. So I bought that house for 82,000. We paid cash, and that one I put another 40,000 into. But this one took me 18 months to finish. So that's a lesson in itself we can talk about. But the cool thing with this one, we did the same deal. We did another BRRRR. So I bought the house, put in the 40,000, new roof siding, windows, full rehab. We fixed the electrical, bathroom, kitchen, whole nine. It's the Airbnb I have listed now. So that one we finished, and I did a DSCR cash out refi, and it appraised at 257,000. So I had 130 in cash and probably another 30,000 in labor if I paid myself. Into like 160 into it, and a cash whatever 250. So we pulled out 173,000, paid ourselves off again,
and then a little bit left over too. Yeah,
a lot left over.
You got a chunk afterward.
Yep. So then I used that money to finish starting my construction company. We bought a dump trailer, another pickup truck, tool trailer. I got a work van now, and that really helped out with the property management company too. And now, that house I still have. We had a long-term midterm. So it was a fully furnished insurance tenant in there last time. He was paying $2,400 a month, and our mortgage is $1,400. So I'd say all in, we're probably netting about $600 in cash flow a month. And because I had other bills, utilities, and things.
Right.
But
this is I
still own it. So
yeah, and you still own the asset. That's the beauty of it. So this is what we talk about sometimes. Is in a lot of cases, the first deal is the most important one because it's what springboards you to all this other stuff. So Zach finds this kind of diamond in the rough that no one else is looking at. He's got his contractor glasses on. He goes, wait, this thing's a duplex. This isn't a single family home. Turns that thing, didn't have a lot of capital, turns that, goes and does the work himself, sells it, turns that into more capital, puts it into the next deal, turns that into more capital. He keeps that house, funds his construction business, and then also funded, you said, your
We bought stuff for property management.
Yeah.
And I still had about 100,000 left in my holding company. So I had a deal between there, but I'm gonna just segue into the deal I'm working on now.
Yeah.
So I found a house on Facebook for 50,000, and the land it needed to go on was another 50,000. The family owns I think 400 or 500 acres in what used to be a really not desirable part of our area, but it's right on the Fox River, which is now there's multi-million-dollar houses around it. So they're now dealing with the estate. Dad died. They all grew up in this house, and they absolutely cannot stand to see it torn down. But the land it's on is worth 50 times what the house is worth, and they don't want to deal with it. So they sold me a quarter-acre lot in town for 50,000, and the house we got for 48 or for whatever. So it's 98,000, and we're going to physically move it. So they're going to pick it up. I think we get to close on it next week. So I haven't really been talking about this deal yet, but that's what the rest of my cash is going into. And the bank that financed my first deal is financing this deal. So they're willing to finance 80% of the purchase and rehab costs. So the move, right? And because I have a great relationship with them and we've already done business and all my accounts are with them, they told me we're investing in you, right? So rather than have to pay a ton of fees to hard money, I've got this great relationship with a bank who wants to invest and see our community grow. And now I have access to, it's prime plus one, but that's way better than hard money.
So you're going, just to make sure I have this straight. This family has this house on a lot. The lot's worth way more than the house, but they don't want to see the house get torn down.
Correct.
So you are buying the house and you're taking it elsewhere. You're going to own that. You're going to own the house. It's just going to be at a different location.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, that's so powerful because you don't you don't call up J.P. Morgan Chase and tell them that you found this lot with a house and you're going to move the house. They're not going to lend on that. That's the power of having a local lender like that.
Well, and the house has got to move 3/4 of a mile down the road. The family owns the land it's going on. We've already done the parceling. We had one small title issue because 2 generations ago the courthouse lost some documents for a transfer, and we've been dealing with affidavits for the last 4 months. So, but absolutely, the relationship with my bank is really what allowed me to do it. And the other cool thing we're doing with this deal, and this segues back to that 18 months it took me on 5th Street. So, yes, I made a ton of equity, right? I made almost 120,000. But if you factor in the fact that it took me 18 months to do, well, that's like a full-time job, right?
Right. There's opportunity cost there.
100%. And so what I learned as a contractor and as someone who has to get projects done, time is, in my opinion, time is the most important factor, and it is the number one overlooked factor, right? So if you're not looking at your deals and calculating carrying costs, and I would calculate, let's say you think you can get this done in 3 months, calculate 6, double that, and then add that onto your deal. Now, if your numbers still work, you've got a safety net, right? That's something I learned from a mistake of it took me so long. So my superpower now is that I love building teams, and I've got, I think, 5 guys signed on. The electrician, I've got the excavator, I've got 2 interior contractors, and I think I got a plumber locked up. For this move, we're doing equity deals instead of full payments. So I'm trying to bring in these guys as owners with me, right? Because if you're an owner, you should be more invested in getting your project done. If you're an owner, you should be more invested in keeping your costs down, right? If you're on the team, you understand the actual goal is the end deal, right? So if we all work together and it all goes well, we take our equity and we go buy our next big property, right? We're going to go and buy an apartment complex, or we're actually hopefully going to start building duplexes. That's the long-term vision. So we're continuing to build the equity. Now I'm working on building the team of partners who can help me get it done fast. And I think that not wanting every piece of the pie is the key to getting more, right? Like Bezos, He's got how many billions of dollars? He only owns 5 or 10% of Amazon.
Right.
He's made how many billions for so many more people. He's got more than he could ever have, and he's made so much more for everybody else. Like, that's a reciprocal thing. It really is. Whether you like it or not, it's how it works. So,
Hey guys, we're taking a quick break, but before we get back into it, if you're enjoying this episode, make sure to like, share, and subscribe. It really helps us to keep bringing you more valuable content. And if you're on Apple Podcasts or Spotify, don't forget to leave a review. Please, it makes a huge difference. All right, let's get back to it.
that's where the win-win is the most important thing. If you can build a win where everyone's winning, then the chances of you winning are substantially higher. So,
Yeah, everybody rowing in the same direction. And I want to talk a little bit more about team building because I've seen it. That is one of your superpowers for sure. I could do an entire episode about this house getting moved, though. I'm going to ask. So one more question. Okay, so it gets picked up. Where are you moving it to? Do you have another lot that you own that you're putting it on?
So the family owns like 500 acres, I'm guessing, and the land it's on is like a 13-acre plot right on the river. So they're breaking that up into these really nice, sexy river lots. And so the house or the family, the land they own butts immediately up to the town of Wrightstown. So it's in the village, and it will be the actual next house, like at the edge of town. So we parceled off a 1/4 acre of their 16-acre plot that is right there, and that's where the house is going. So they own the land and the house and had a place for it to go. And they had already done a little bit of research on the moving company, which I actually ended up using. It's $21,000 if you want to know, to pick the house up and move it 3/4 of a mile. That's just the move cost. But yeah, so that was the deal. That's why it worked out. A lot of these times you'll see, oh, a house needs to be moved, but it's like, yeah, well, where do you put it?
Right.
So with having the access to where does it go and knowing those costs up front, that's what allowed me to really pull the trigger. The rest of it, it's like, well, as long as you don't lose money, I mean, just the marketing value and the education piece of it alone is insane, right? So to get to say that I moved a house is pretty wild, you know?
Yeah, that's a good tool to have in your tool belt that most of us have not done before. So back to the business building side of this. So you're an agent, soon to be broker. You're a property manager. I got these written down. I'm almost losing track. Contractor, and then you're an investor. You own real estate. You buy deals yourself. Was this your plan from day one to wear all these different hats and have all these different businesses, or did it kind of just end up progressing that way slowly where you added more layers to your business over the course of time?
Well, so the plan originally was just to be an investor and to have my free time. But when we finished our unit for the duplex, COVID had just happened, rent moratoriums, no one could be kicked out. Literally, I'm renting my unit out in the middle of the biggest freak out in rentals I've probably ever heard of, right? So no one knew what was going on or if you're going to get paid or when or what the situation was. And a lot of people think all the investors are big institutional people, but really we're all just people trying to get ahead in life and do a little more. You know, the majority of real estate's owned by people like us. I got a few deals. So what I found out was all the research I had done, all the education I had put in, it really gave me the tools to screen people well. And because I enjoy talking to people. I enjoyed the fact that I built this really great unit and I could give someone a great place to live, right? That made me feel amazing. And then to be able to put somebody into that unit and see them be appreciative of all the work we did, I was like, I got to do this more. This is what's up. And the other thing with investing, which I really like. So if you do stocks, you do 401ks, that's great. But you can't go to GM or Tesla or whoever and tell them to knock it off and get their stuff together, right? So this investment, this real estate that I do, I can put my hand to anytime it's got an issue, right? So my dad and I had started out planning on investing and doing the rehab work. And then I was like, man, I love property management. How can I do more of this? And that's when I started more research and found out in Wisconsin, you have to be a broker. So that's what started my real estate specifically. So I start that company and that's going pretty well. It's actually going really well. I've grown that company a lot, but I'm just saying that kind of started out going well. And I started my property management company, and my mentor became my broker until I take over with the brokerage license. So I started my property management company, and I'm doing the repairs for all these owners. And it's like, I can't do this anymore. I'm trying to be a property manager, grow my company. I took on an owner with 13 doors, which for me was huge at the time. I've since actually, we moved on from each other. That was a whole nother lesson that not all money works for you, right? So it's okay.
You told me this one offline one time. I think.
We can talk about that in another part. So then I'm like, okay, I need to get this construction figured out. So I started with a friend of mine who, he had his own company, but he wasn't doing a ton with what he was doing. He was looking for something else. So I got him started working with me. And then I went on the local investor groups and found a couple customers who needed some repair jobs. So we did 3 big rehabs like in the last 6 months. And that kind of solidified getting that company going. And now Pete is my guy. He's my number one. He's running the job sites, and he allows me to be out doing the marketing and getting more people. And the upside of having property management, I can send business to my company, right? So I can keep us busy. I can buy investments and keep my guys busy. And I've told them, I want them all to be owners with me. And my greedy personal part of the whole construction company is when I have my deals, I want my guys working on my deals. But I want my guys owning the deals too.
Yeah.
Right. So that's how I ended up starting this construction company. And for me, Grant Cardone said it first for me. I don't know if he coined this or not, but he said, I measure my success not in my success, but in how many people I can help be successful. And that really spoke to me as a person. So building the teams, right? Like it's all for something more. And I think for me, that's how I get my goals. And I'm not trying to be greedy, but if I'm going to say I'm being greedy, that's the greedy part of it, right? I'm just trying to have people in positions to help me when I need it. And I really want to give them the opportunity to make all of what they can. So even with like pay, the construction company, we do a lot different than most people. So if you want to be on an hourly rate, you can. But when we bid out jobs, I pay the guys 80% of the job. I take my margin for the company, we remove expenses. So if the guys are good, I mean, I have guys making 70, 80, 90 bucks an hour. And then you think they're excited to come and work on my deals? Absolutely.
Oh, yeah.
All day. Let's go. And so if you put that first, you put the team first and what the real goal is, and you try and serve everybody, and not to be taken advantage of, but right, you got to not just say what's in it for me. Then I think your investment journey can be a lot smoother, and you can avoid a lot of those headaches that trip people up. If you only worry about you and your money, then it's like it just won't come to you, right? Like think about grasping water. You can't grasp water, right? How do you hold water? You have to hold it. So your money is the same way. You want more money, you have to give it out and hold it, and not So that's how I got all these companies. It kind of the vertical integration thing, right?
Yeah, and that's a great way. That's how you retain people too. You give that ownership and making them feel like the place they're working at is home, and they want to be there for multiple years. And that's kind of what you touched on. Like that's kind of the entire point of American capitalism, right? Is that it's not about there's a pie that's this big and how much of it can I get for myself. I want to make the pie bigger and get a piece of it. I mean, you touched on it earlier, right? Do you want to, it's a corny saying, but like, do you want the whole orange or do you want a piece of the watermelon, right? And the more people you can help, there's some of the best companies, their mission statements are around, they don't have anything to do with the individual. It's how, if you help enough people, that's how you get paid. And you're right, Zach. Like, we say it's like greedy, but it is like, if you want to point to a greedy thing about it, it is in the short term, maybe it's not, but in the long term, that is how you build this huge business and eventually make a ton of money for yourself, make a ton of money for everybody around you. Guess who else is going to get paid? The guy who made sure everybody else got paid. That's how it works. That's how capitalism is supposed to work. So on the management side, have you been able talk. Actually, let's hop into this because it's brand new. Literally, I think like official launch was probably less than 72 hours ago. Talk a little bit about, it's called Packerland. Gosh, I'm butchering the name because
Packerland Stays.
Packerland Stays. Thank you. I should know this because I'm a customer and my property's under it. Tell us about Packerland Stays and what you're doing there.
Oh, right on. Thank you. So Packerland Stays is our short-term rental company. And as you can see, Team First Property Management, that's what I named our company, and that's our monikers we've been working under. But it's not very sexy for a short-term rental. I don't know that I necessarily want to stay at a Team First house. So I was thinking, how can we capture the essence of Green Bay without steering anywhere weird, right? So we have Green Bay, but if you go Bayview, you're thinking California, right?
Yep.
If you think Northwoods, we're not quite in the Northwoods. We're close, but we're not really there. So that didn't really fit. The lake kind of, I don't know. So Packerland just fits. It fits for us, and that's what we are. We're the Packer fans, right? So we have 2 meatpacking plants. That's kind of one of our biggest industries, alternative from the paper industry. So that's what we went with. And then I'm not very creative. So I created a bunch of different logos, and I let my Facebook troop pick how we went that way. That was actually really fun and helpful. So now we've just transitioned to Guesty. So Guesty is our property management software for our short-term rentals. It allowed us to connect all of the sites in one place. It allows you as an owner to have one portal to go to, get your reporting. You can see all your bookings. You can book the house yourself. It also gave us direct booking sites. So now we can save the owners money or get the owners more income, right? Because there's Airbnb fees that you can either capture or give as a discount. So there was a ton of value there. And with the draft coming to Green Bay, I wanted to make sure that our owners really had as much exposure as they could and deserved. So that was the push for Packerland Stays. And as you mentioned, we just really went live about 3 days ago with our Facebook page. I'm starting to shoot walkthrough videos of the houses and really kind of trying to give our owners the exposure they need. So that's been a huge push. Now that we've gotten our long-term rentals really solidified. My partners in my company are amazing. Matthew and Jamal, Michiko, they work so hard to just make sure as much of this stuff is as smooth as possible. And they're always looking for ways to improve and make it better for our owners. So that's Packerland Stays. We're definitely excited to kind of see that grow.
Yeah, you guys do a great job. You guys are constantly innovating and trying to improve. Shout out to Jamal, by the way. He's the main member of your staff that I interact with. He's awesome. But I mean, you talked about the vertically integrated thing. Like, I'm a perfect example. I kind of buried the lead here about Zach and I met because I'd always wanted to buy a place in Green Bay. My whole portfolio is in Oregon, but diehard Packer. It's like a dream of mine to own a place near Lambeau. And I got referenced through to Zach. And the really cool thing about this was, so I live in New York, of course. So when you're an out of state investor, I mean, you're really putting a lot of faith in somebody. And what the beauty of what Zach does is I bought the house with him as my agent. He did the renovations as my contractor, and now he manages it as the property manager. So he really, it's you're not working with, normally I'd be working with 3 different people to do those 3 things. So it's all been very synergized under that. And Zach is, needless to say, has done an amazing job managing my place. For our listeners, because I've been to Green Bay a number of times now, and most people in America know it as for the Packers, Lambeau Field, all the history. But aside from the Packers, you've lived there since you were 4 years old. What makes Green Bay, and then also a place I've learned about, Door County, which is freaking awesome. What makes the area cool besides the Packers, of course?
Yeah, so we have great geology. Obviously, we love beer. If you guys are into beer or wine, oh my gosh, you can
Spotted cow.
Yeah, yes. So we have a lot of different things like that going on. Like you said, Door County is incredible. Just the beauty, the shopping, the different things to do. We have Lake Michigan on the one side, we have the bay on the other side. So there's fishing, there's water. I don't know. We have all kinds of stuff like that. The thing that I think makes Green Bay unique is how friendly everyone is and how everyone just would die to give you the shirt off their back. You see, if you watch Charlie Berens and how he talks about, the Midwestern goodbye and things like that, it's really true. It's cold here and we're inside a lot of the year. And I think that is kind of makes something a little special here, right? We work really hard and we really care about our neighbors. So if you're looking for a place in the country that's kind of more relaxed and about your family and getting it done, I mean, that's kind of Green Bay. So it's interesting because we have the Packers. I think the next largest metro market is like almost 1 million. We have 350,000 in our entire area. So we are lucky that we have that exposure. And it kind of brings a unique flair to Green Bay because we get investing that wouldn't typically happen. I mean, we have like US Oil has a venture company here for technology innovation. The Packers help bring them in. So there's like a technology think tank and then just different kind of cool community things. We have Aaron's Hill, we have the Titletown District, we have Bay Beach, which is another amazing amenity. It's been around since the early 1900s. I mean, they have the Zippin' Pippin roller coaster, which was Elvis's favorite roller coaster. It got moved in from the East Coast about 10 years ago. So we have a lot of unique things and a lot of, draw to come here. But that's kind of what makes Green Bay Green Bay. And I wouldn't trade it for anything.
Yeah, every time I go, it just feels not that you guys don't have any problems or anything. Like everybody deals with different stuff, but it just feels like people don't. I don't know how to put it. Like people don't make such a big deal out of everything. Like people have different whatever. I mean, politics is the thing that everybody's at their throats about right now, or I guess always. But people have different political views, but they're not like at each other's throats about it. It just feels very like everybody's kind of in it together. It's more relaxed. Not every problem is life or death. I mean, you go to one of my favorite things. I learned about the tradition of Fish Fry Friday. It's one of my favorite. That when I take family or friends to Green Bay, that's the first thing. In fact, I hit you up.
Yeah, you did.
You gave me a couple. Gosh, what's the one I always go to? Lorelei's, right?
Yeah, the Lorelei.
Yeah. Oh my God, that place is freaking awesome. But yeah, Fish Fry. If you're at Fish Fry Friday in Green Bay, or if you're in the Lambeau Field parking lot on a Sunday, like you don't have a worry in the world.
Right.
Everything just feels like it's good. Everybody's friends. It's Green Bay in a nutshell. If you can do that kind of stuff while you're in town, it's a special place for sure.
Absolutely.
Cool, man. So let's talk. I want to touch on because you brought it up earlier. Like hiring and building teams is definitely one of your superpowers. You've built. We talk about company culture, and it's a buzzword that people throw around. Sometimes it's kind of frankly bullshit, and sometimes it's a very real thing, right?
Yeah.
For you, it's a very real thing. I know that. But talk about how, I guess first, I don't even know this. Tell us how many people you have working for you now between, employees, 1099s, et cetera. And then tell us a bit about your hiring process, how you hire people that are a good fit for your companies.
So let's see, we have 4 guys running the construction company right now. I have 2 cleaners. So they're doing the Airbnb cleaning. So we got backup and a primary. And then I have Michiko and Jamal. So they are my VAs. They're in the Philippines. And they run kind of a lot of the day-to-day operations, the button pushing and all this stuff. And then my other partner is Matthew. Matthew Pfluger is my brother-in-law. He is by day trade, he is a business software design analyst guy. And it's really helpful for me because he's the one who makes sure our technology is all working and on point and integrated and your reports look good. And he's very anal about the things that I struggle with. So I'm ADD, if you haven't Can't tell already. So my weakness is punching every T, crossing every T, dotting every I, making sure every single little thing is where it needs to be. And so you asked, how do you build a good team? I think one of the biggest things for me is first identifying where am I the holdup and how do I fix that as fast as possible? How do I get out of the way as fast as I can? And that's either through hiring or through transfer of duties or finding the right person or stopping doing that thing because maybe it's not valuable at all, right? Very, very rarely will I just bear down on something I'm not good at, right? So that's one of the first things. I had to find out what am I not good at and how do I get people to fill those holes. And then the other thing that is vitally important is when you find somebody, get out of their way. Let them do what you hired them to do.
That's the hard one.
It's super hard. And I learned this lesson early, right? That I am not the best at everything. It's hard to think for a lot of people, right? A lot of people say, well, I don't want to give that up because I can do it better or blah, blah, blah. Well, guess what? Even if you can, 80% of what you can do is great. So let them do the 80 so you can be on your day with your 20, right? The 20% you really makes the needle move. So that's what I do. I try and find the right person and I get out of their way and I try and compensate them more than fairly. And I one of my staff, Trisha, she gave me the 5 love language book. And I think identifying how people like to be praised is so important. Because like for me, I'm a words of affirmation guy. So tell me I'm doing a good job and I'll keep shoveling. Let's go. Right? But a lot of people, that's not what they need. Maybe someone needs money. Maybe someone needs an extra day off or a little bit more flexibility, or they need a shout out in a different way, or they need to not be shouted out. They need the quiet appreciation. Maybe they just need a gift card. Maybe you need to take them to lunch, or when it's their birthday, do some little extra, right? So I think so many people, when they get into trying to run a company, they think they got to control it all and run it all and all the things. And it's like, no, trust your people, step back, and then verify they're getting it done. And then if they make a mistake, don't beat them up. That's awesome education, right? Let them learn that education, right? I used to work in that promo products company, and some of the equipment we were running, if you messed it up, it cost thousands of dollars to repair, right? So we had embroidery machines, the 6-head embroidery machine. It has 12 needles on 6 heads. And if you mess up, you jam all those heads, right? You got to bring a technician in to fix it. And it's $3,000. But if you make that mistake, you're probably not going to make it again, right? So why would you fire that person, right? Don't kill them. Just let them know they've messed up. Now, don't fool me twice. It's on you, right? So anyways, that's kind of the tenets of how I build my teams. And then I will give you every opportunity until most people think that I should have given up a long time ago. Because if you're not a good fit, I want to know that. And then my job, if you're not a good fit, is to help you find a good fit. That's the other thing I think most people won't do. And you talked about it. I remember in one of your podcasts with that person who didn't work out, right? It's like, if there's any connection you can make, if there's any reference you can do, if there's anything you can do to help them find a new home, do it. Why wouldn't you do that, right? Your people around you see that. If they see the amount of energy and effort you put into people who they think will never make it, well, then how much are you going to put into someone who you know will make it? And that's how you keep building the team, and you give people the support they need. And then when you need them to support you, they're there, right? They're there when you need them, and you can call on them, and they'll do whatever they need to do. So, but it starts with you. You give first. You got to give, and live by what you say. So we had a job. We did a basement crawl space. It was nasty. It was like 3 feet tall. It was plastic we had to lay down. It was on a dirt hole floor. I was the first one in the hole and the last one out, man. We're wearing mold masks and the full Tyvek suits. It was the worst job I ever did. We'll never do it again. But my guys know that I'm in there with them, right? I'm not going to send them in and make them do stuff that I wouldn't do. I'll be the first one in the hole. And so if you put that effort into what you're doing, you're going to get the team that you want. You're going to get the culture that you want. But that's the driver, right? Do, give, support, get out of the way, right? And then you're good. So
That's so good. I mean, yeah, that's one thing to know is you set the culture from the top. So a big one with us is like we don't do excuses. We do mistakes. Mistakes are fine. We learn from them. If there's and a huge thing is if you're the boss, if you're the CEO or president or whatever, ultimately everything is your fault.
absolutely.
You don't people that go around saying, "Oh, I have a crappy employee." Like, well, who hired that employee?
Who's
Oh
letting them keep going?
yeah.
Yeah,
Oh, my employee made this mistake. Okay, well, did you give them a system so that they wouldn't make that mistake? It all comes back to you. And then, at a certain point, once you've done all the coaching and setting up systems and, put your people in a position to succeed, if they're still having issues, yes, okay, that's the time. Maybe we have that conversation about maybe this isn't the best place for you. How can I help you? And then
absolutely.
and then the second piece you touched on that I love, that's a mistake. I think I learned some of this from you, is you need to understand what makes your people tick. And that's not always just money. Sometimes we think like, oh, people, everybody wants, to make more compensation, to take care of themselves, take care of their family. But we try to have, I mean, I talked to you about this. We do monthly KPI calls now with people who work for us, and we talk about what their personal goals are. And part of it's money for sure, but sometimes it's like, I want more stability, I want more hours, I want more responsibilities, I want more autonomy. I want to be able. You don't know what makes people. We have this instinct to think like whatever gets us excited is what gets everyone else
Yeah,
excited, and not everyone's the same. People have different things that are priorities in their life. So you need to, for one, you need to ask them. But probably an even bigger part is you need to create a. This is the hard part: is to create a culture where they feel comfortable telling you how they actually feel, because it's so many people have worked for bosses in the past where like they just want yes men and yes women around them, and they're scared to say anything.
yeah,
It's just always like, oh yeah, boss, I love everything here, everything is great, I couldn't be happier, and then the next day they're resigning, right? They're
yeah.
just scared to tell the boss how they actually feel. So anyway, bit of a rant there, but I love the stuff you said because you're so good. I've noticed that about you. You're really good at building teams and making people feel at home working for you. And like it's not just a job, it's a place they want to be for years.
Well, and the key to that, so when I very at the beginning went into real estate, I interviewed at Delaire Realty, and Greg Delaire is an icon in our area. He had a 3-hour "I'm not hiring you" phone call with me, and it was right after I quit being the president, and it was one of the most life-changing phone calls I've ever had. And what he did is he said, I had to do a personality test. I had to do all kinds of stuff. And I don't run my company like his at all. So, kudos to him for all that. But what he said is, your personality isn't going to jive here. And I'd like to recommend a book to you. And it was called Teamwork. Cultivating the Ideal Team Player. And Lincoln. I forgot. Anyways, if you look it up on Audible, it's a great book. And it talks about teams, building teams, why it's important. And the key, you hit it on, the key is vulnerability. People have to know that they can be vulnerable and they're not going to be ridiculed. And your team needs to be a safe environment. And the reason why is then when someone has a crazy idea and instead of like laughing them out the door, they'll say the idea. And yeah, maybe it's crazy, but instead of laughing them out the door, talk to them about the idea. Because guess what? You're going to get a really freaking good idea. You're going to have a great team if they know that they can come and say, hey guys, this is what I was thinking. I know it's off the wall, but blah, blah, blah. My best guys, they do that every freaking day. They're like, what about boom? And now you just shaved off 4 hours. Now you just, right? And we're all about quality. We're not the cheap guys. We're the quality. We want to give you a great thing that you're paying us, right? So we don't look for shortcuts, but we're definitely looking for improvements, right? And so maybe it's a weird tool. Maybe it's a weird way to do it. Maybe it's this whatever video you saw on YouTube, right? But that is the key. Allow your people to be vulnerable. Be vulnerable to them. Don't have an ego. The ego's got to go.
Boom.
Right?
That's so, yeah.
It's got to go. It's not about you. It's about the team. And if it always stays that way, I think that's how you can really drive the culture. And the other thing is, it's never from the top. So everyone thinks the guy is the big man on top, right? It's a pyramid and it's the boss, and it's absolutely the opposite. So the boss is the felt pad between the floor and the foot of the table, right? And it works backwards. So the triangle's upside down, and the boss or the leader is supporting the entire organization above them. And that's how I look at what I do. So I'm here to help make sure everyone has everything they need to get everything done in the way that they need to get it done. And I set the tone, right? We're starting here and we're heading up, but I'm the support. I'm not the pressure. I'm not the leader on top jamming it down. I'm up. So I think a lot of people miss that, or they don't understand that that's really how it is. And they think, oh, I'm a boss. I'm the guy in charge. And it's like, no, you're the boss. You're the guy who's actually got to make sure it all gets done.
Yeah. And that doesn't mean micromanaging everyone, which is
get out of the way.
Yeah. Get out of the way. And like you said, check your ego. And one thing you'll learn, you talked about, Zach, it's, if you can find somebody to do the job 80% as well as you did, that's a win. What you find sometimes is they do it 120%. They're better than you.
You'll find that more often than not. Yeah.
So now you don't have to do it, and it's getting done better. And it is, man. It's all about, if you can check your ego, the day you make that realization that, like, wait, I'm not the man. Like, I'm not good at everything. This person I just hired is better than me at this, and I didn't like doing it anyway. So now I don't have to do it, and it's getting done better. That's a hell of a win. So
yeah, it's like the heavens opened. What happened?
Yeah,
here?
Exactly. And some people never realize it, and they end up being solopreneurs forever. Which you can be successful doing that. But you can't grow a business if you do that. There's only one of you, and so it's a skill to learn.
If you want to see other people's success, and that's how you're going to measure your success, then you got to help other people, right? And if you want it to be free, there's nothing wrong with that. I used to think you had to have all these big grandiose dreams and visions, and there's nothing wrong with wanting to be the best mom on the planet, or be the best lawn cutter, or be the best burger flipper, right?
Totally.
It's just when you have those things, you go for them, and understand not everyone does. And I think it's all good. We need it all, right?
Yeah, exactly. Everybody's motivated by different things. So, okay, before we let you go, I know you're a busy guy. I got a couple final questions here. Just non-real estate. What do you like to do for fun, or do you have 2 kids? I can't remember.
I do. Yep, I have 2 daughters.
So you have 2 kids. I'm sure you're busy. What do you like to do with your daughters, or what do you like to do with your wife, or just for fun? Any hobbies? What do you do away from work?
I spend a lot of time at work right now.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I have a 4-wheeler. I have 5.5 acres. We have a little farmette out in the country, so we got a nice garden. We like to do that. We take our daughters. Usually try to go once a weekend to, either like a trampoline park, or we have this nice little water park called Tundra Lodge that's indoors and a little bit outdoors. So really, I want to spend time with my kids, be present at the home, and I really try to protect the family time. So the weekends, I really try to not let it spill over. They are my why, and I think some people lose sight of, like you can't be in your why so much that you don't ever get to be happy being with the why. So, the family is the most important thing, and being able to be with them, and however that looks. So we just took them to the Mall of America. That was amazing. Yeah, and getting to see my kids. I think that is my biggest hobby now, honestly, because I didn't not want kids, but I didn't really want kids. It was just kind of a thing, and getting to see them grow and learn and watch another human being develop is just the coolest thing, man. And getting to be a part of that is pretty special. So I'm just trying to focus on that. We get a little bit of 4-wheeling in, or go hang out with friends, or we work on cars. I got a nice little shop, so we'll tinker on different things. But we're trying to build the business and get to a spot where I'd like to get my wife retired in the next few years, and then maybe, I thought it'd be cool if you could homeschool, and instead of teaching your kids about Paris, take them there, right? Like, So that's kind of the power of investing in passive income, right? If you can be real dedicated about what you want to do, it can give you that freedom. I don't hear people doing their 401k, but you hear people all the time. I'm living off my investments. Life's good. So
Yep, there's definitely a path to get there.
yeah.
Who is this is special for this episode. Who's your all-time favorite Packer?
Oh, oh, hmm. Um, I like Robert Brooks from way back in the day.
Ooh, that's a good name drop.
Yeah.
I like that. Okay.
Yeah, he was 87. That's the year I was born, and I think he was on the Super Bowl team. Brett Favre was awesome growing up, having him. Reggie White was another rock. Reggie White was awesome in our community. He really did a lot for a lot of people around here, and it was kind of sad when he passed. So,
Yeah.
yeah, I don't know. Those are kind of my dudes. Rodgers is awesome. It was really cool having two amazing quarterbacks back to back forever. It's like, wow. So, but those would be my guys.
What's the best thing? And it can be totally for fun, or it can be self-helpy or business, whatever. Best thing that you've read, watched, or listened to recently. Basically, any type of content that you'd recommend to our audience.
So I will have to look up the name of the book, but I just listened to a book about purchasing businesses.
Oh, was it the? It's not. Is it the Cody Sanchez one?
I'm
Because
gonna
her
have to
book's
look
been
up.
going crazy.
It's not that one. Oh man, my goodness. Let me see if I can find it. Anyways, so I didn't realize that you can invest in businesses like real estate, and the equity gains you can make on a business are actually even better than real estate. So, really trying to dive into that. I like running businesses, and I think as more of a long-term strategy, I mean, investing in real estate will always be like the bread and butter, but I think the fun thing for my life going forward would be to start working on business acquisitions. So my past, I did a lot of IT work, and I'm really good at building teams. I like building systems. I like fixing problems. And so if you can find a business that you can, again, put your hand to or find a way to make better, um, you can make a lot of money and you can do a lot of really cool things. So again, that's kind of what I'm on. I should find the name of that book. I just finished it.
Yeah, there's a lot of similarities to real estate, right? I mean, buying a rental property is like buying a small business. It's underperforming, it's been mismanaged, it needs renovations. Same thing with a business. If it's been mismanaged, you go in there and improve the ops, and you
Well,
create equity. It's the same concepts.
there's plenty of opportunities to grow too. If you're someone who's great at marketing, find a business that's under marketed. If you're somebody who's great at technology, find a company that didn't do the technology. There's people retiring every day that don't sell their businesses that absolutely would love to. And you shed so much risk from a startup when you buy something that's already established, and you can get great financing for it. So I didn't know that. I didn't know that was another option. I used to say the only thing that was worth investing in is real estate. But that's the other eye opener there.
Good stuff. All right, Zach, before we let you go, anything you want to shout out or plug for, related to any of your companies? And then also, where can people follow you on? I think you have Instagram, Facebook. Anything you want to plug before we sign off here?
I guess I would like to plug my company, Packerland Stays and Team First Services. If you got investors who want to look at the Midwest, we're a great place to invest. There's still cash flow here, and there's great equity gains, even if you can't make cash flow right away. Our market's appreciating. People work hard here. So, as Matt mentioned, I helped him find a home. He didn't even come for a year. So, Matt trusted me to find the house, to rehab it, to furnish it, to paint it, everything. Got it listed and ran it. And then he came about a year later, the first time to come to his Packer game. We got to enjoy his house. We love what we do. I got a team that's ready to go, and I'd love to help you guys too. So if you guys want to look at the Midwest, Facebook is probably the best place to hit me. I have Insta too. I'm really building out Facebook first, and then we'll roll into Insta and maybe on TikTok coming up or whatever. But reach out. Email Zach@teamfirstrents.com. You can give me a phone call, my work phone, 920-371-9431. So like I said, if you guys want to chat Midwest real estate, hit me up.
There you go. And I can vouch for Zach as a happy customer and just as a buddy. So Zach, great having you on, man. And this has been the Saucetown Investor Podcast.
Thanks, man.
That is a wrap for today's episode. Thanks for tuning in to the Saucetown Investor. If you got value from this, drop us a comment and let us know your thoughts. Did you have a big takeaway? Is there a topic you want to see us cover next time? Is there a guest you want to see interviewed? DMs are open. Business is at Saucetown Properties, and my personal, you can DM me personally, is at The Real Matt Cox 4. We'd also like to ask you kindly to please like and subscribe. You can also follow along with the Saucetown Investor blog. That's mattcox444.substack.com. Thanks again, guys, and until next time, keep investing and stay saucy, Saucetown.